Namaskar, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Editorial Edge, StudyIQ's daily news analysis. I'm Bhuvan Apurva Jha. I apologize for the 5-minute delay. As you can see, uh, I got caught in a brief spell of rain here. It's a rainy morning here in NCR. So if you don't know about it, don't worry. The national news will be flashing it to you as if it is a news of national importance right now. Okay, that it rained in NCR today. Anyways, jokes aside, so we'll just get straight into the topic. This is the daily news analysis where we take an in-depth look at a particular article, making sure that you have all the angles covered from prelims up until interviews. And so this has been going on since after the prelims started, and this will be going on for quite some time to come. Once again, good morning, Rajan. How are you? Welcome. Thank you for joining again. Thank you. Alright, so this is my Telegram channel, guys, before I start the session today. So if you're interested in joining my Telegram channel, I can assure you there is a lot of activity going to be happening. Right now we are just consolidating, but this is going to be a friend and a guide insofar as tackling the in-depth analysis of current affairs is concerned. Okay, so it would be best advised that you go ahead and sign up for it. Good morning, Bulbul, Madhusudan, Vipen, good morning all of you. Namaskar and welcome. So go ahead and sign up for this Telegram channel if you haven't already. Meanwhile, we'll straight away jump into the topics that I have for you this morning. First one is obviously to do with the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI. We will take a look at all of the angles covered, not just from what is covered in say polity in Lakshmikant. Forget that. That is obviously the theory, the core theory bit. But we'll also take a look at say what are the issues and challenges that CBI faces, what's the way forward that it should be. And so off late, if you just see, so we had the devastating tragedy in Odisha, okay, where the 3 trains got involved in an unfortunate accident. And so then after that, you must have seen that CBI was ordered to go ahead and take a look at, and then obviously like inquire about the whole mishap. So it begs the question as to why CBI, firstly, okay. Why not say something like the National Transport Safety Advisory Board, the NTSB, I think. An organization like this exists in the US, okay, whose sole ambit is to just take care of these accidents, okay, road accidents, rail accidents, air accidents. They have a group of specialists. If you have seen that movie, Scully, okay, there was a movie in the middle called Scully, I believe, okay, where a particular aviation pilot, he had to go ahead and land his airplane in the Hudson River because he had a bird strike. And then after that, the whole trial and the inquiry commission was essentially the people from NTSAB. Okay, if you have seen this movie, you'll remember this. So why not something like that in India? Okay, why is it that we are giving these kind of cases to CBI? Is it the proper use of CBI? Or should there be a more specialist organization? We'll take a look at all of those. Okay. Thereafter, the second topic that I have for you is obviously to do with the NTRS. It's a study that has been released the past couple of days, I believe, Friday evening. I think I received a notification for this. So the NTRS, the National Time Release Study, what is it to do about? What is its findings? What are the ramifications of this whole study that has been done? We'll take a look at that. Okay. Now, before I begin my session, many students reached out to me saying, okay, how should they be reading newspapers? And especially the beginners, I understand that's a very fair doubt to have. So right now, for at least those who are beginning for say preparing for 2024, well, obviously you need to start reading newspapers. There is no denying that. However, before you read a particular newspaper article, make sure that you at least know the fundamentals of what you are going to read. Okay. So if you are reading an article on say CBI reforms, have an idea of what the CBI is, what kind of functions it does, what's the role, who appoints the CBI director, who appoints the CBI SP, who appoints the CBI sub-inspector, all of that, okay? And what are the challenges? Have an idea of those first before you go ahead and read the article, because only then will you be able to make sense of that article to the fullest, or else it will be like reading a reading comprehension passage. So there will not be a lot of takeaway for you there, okay? And if someone who has obviously studied Lakshmikant in detail and all of those books in detail and you know about CBI, then it is best advised that whenever you have an update to a particular current affairs topic, okay, for example, we are discussing CBI today. So if you have a particular update, say again, for those who know that, okay, it's not a statutory organization, neither it is a constitutional organization. Suppose tomorrow something changes and it becomes a statutory organization. Suppose. In that case, it is advised again that you go through right from the basics, the history of CBI up until the change. Never focus just solely on the update. Okay. Whenever you even have an update, make sure that you go from the back to the front, covering the update, so that it should be in a storytelling format for you. You will remember it that way. All right. And for beginners, obviously, prepare first before you jump into the articles, which means you have to put in an extra effort every morning. Okay. One way to obviously do that, avoid to do that, is come join me here, because here we discuss the large part of the theory along with the contemporary reality, which you can incorporate in your answers. All right. So this is my agenda for the day today. First article is this, second article is this, and obviously we have means and this that follows a part of every session. All right, we'll jump straight away into the first topic. So this is the mains question that was asked in the year 2021, I believe. Yes. The mains question of 2021, have a look at it, and then we shall form this as the basis of our understanding for today. The jurisdiction of the CBI regarding lodging an FIR and conducting a probe with a particular state is being questioned by various states. Now, if you are aware of this, various states across India, okay, if you go and have a look, there are at least like 5, 6, 7 states right now that have done it, that have withdrawn their consent. Okay, so we'll understand what is consent. Why is it that these states have a problem with the CBI? What can be done to address that problem? Okay, and so we'll take a look at that first, and then the question, however, the power of the states to withhold consent. So this is an operative term for our today's discussion. What exactly is consent? What's the remit of states to give or withdraw consent with regards to CBI? Okay. So the power of the states to withhold consent to the CBI is not absolute, which means that probably the question is hinting that the union government has the final say. Okay. And so straight away you will realize that it is to do with something that is unitary, it is to do with something that is concerning the national security, or say security between states. All right. If the states don't have absolute power, who does? All right. So explain with special reference to the federal character of India. We will take a look at this. Obviously, the CBI story has been made famous because of a particular movie that had come. So we'll jump into the topic. If you have a particular thought process that you would like to introduce in today's class, or any particular opinion, feel free to reach out to me in the comment box here, the chat box. All right, keep it going so that I can see that the class is in sync with what I'm saying. All right. Okay, let's jump into it now. What is the CBI? So CBI owes its origin to the DSPE Act, the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. Now for beginners, this is your first key fact that you have to understand, that it is based on an act, okay, established in 1941, essentially post-war corruption that was there. World War II saw a lot of governmental spending, governmental machinery put into action, and obviously there was scope for corruption, like always. So then after the post-World War, so it was decided that, okay, there should be a specific body that will go ahead and look into misdemeanors of, say, financial appropriation or all of that. Sir, CBI general consent, who is the authority? I'll tell you. Knowledge, I'll just inform you. Let's first understand from the basics, okay? So, the post-World War corruption, it was supposed to inquire into. Now, why am I introducing this? So that you understand what was it formed for, okay? What was it formed for, and now how that organization has evolved to do what it is doing. Alright, so you have to understand that first. The purpose of the establishment of the organization vis-a-vis what it is doing now. Sure, Pran, in fact, I provide all of this in PDF format in my Telegram channel, right? So again, if you're just a newcomer here, if you're watching this for the first time, well, this is my Telegram channel. You can go ahead and scan it and enter here. Be a part of this, and obviously I upload all the PDFs that I introduce here on StudyIQ IAS English. All of that plus MCQs वगैरह भी अब आएंगे. All of that will be done. So go ahead and scan this and be a part. And I shall share this around noon. Normally I share this between 12 to 12:15. Okay. So the CBI was established by a resolution of the MHA, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and later transferred to the Ministry of Personnel. Okay. Functioning as an attached office. So you see, straight away, first it was under MHA, now it is an attached office. Okay. Straight away, do you realize the difference here? It's not an autonomous organization. It's an attached office. You might say that you would want to be, ideally you would want the CBI to be an absolutely autonomous organization. Say if you consider the American example, okay? You look at, say, what the FBI does, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You have had cases as recently as the past 3 years where the FBI has gone ahead and conducted investigations against the top leaders of the country. Why is it able to do that? In fact, if you read American history, or at least say the last 30, 40, 50 years, you will see that the FBI has so much of power that it can actually go ahead and launch investigations against probably some of the most top-ranking individuals in the hierarchy of US administration, right? So that is the sort of autonomy that you're looking at in terms of an organization that is representative of what CBI does, right? So therein is the basic problem. Its establishment itself is lopsided, it's compromised. What you ideally want the organization to do is to make sure that it has autonomy, it has all the powers you need. Unless you give an organization its moral standing, its legal standing, everything you have to give, empower the particular organization. Okay? So this is the problem, it's an attached office. It's neither constitutional nor statutory. Please make a note of this, okay? Not just from the UPSC perspective, but if you are appearing for all these other examinations, you will see it's a commonly asked question. You know, what's the role of CBI? What type of a body is it? Okay. So very commonly asked question. It's probably one of the most commonly asked questions across examinations in India. So go ahead and make a note of this. An establishment was recommended by the K. Santhanam committee. Again, another popular MCQ. So make a note of this too again if you're a beginner starting out for preparing 2024. Okay? It's neither constitutional nor statutory, and the K. Santhanam committee recommended its formation. Now this is the introduction to the body. So the origin, who did it, what happened, all of that. Now we go ahead and okay, make a note of this too, guys. Okay, the quote, these you see here, these words: industry, impartiality, integrity. This is the motto of organizations. Now, for example, what I say is that when you are studying polity, obviously you study all the thing. Make sure that you know the motto also. Okay, because often most students wouldn't know the motto of particular organizations. Have an idea. Okay. So, example, if I ask you which organization's motto is Bahujan Hitai, Bahujan Sukhai. Okay. Can someone tell me in the chat? Okay, which organization's motto is this? Bahujan Sukhai, Bahujan Hitai, which means service of all and looking out for the interests of all. Can someone tell me? See, you should know about these, okay? Know about the motto of all the different organizations. At least have an idea of the motto of, say, different Indian Army regiments also, because the way UPSC is going, eventually you are going to need comprehensive information which can't be considered complete unless you know these minor facts and details also. Okay. And once you know the motto, you will be able to understand the remit of the organization. What exactly is the organization's bandwidth? You know, what's its spectrum of functioning? Okay. Let me know if someone knows about this quickly in the chat. Alright, so the functions of CBI now. What are its functions? Cases of corruption, fraud committed by public servants of all central government, department, public sector undertakings and financial institutions. See the keyword here, central. So if you are a part of the government of India and if you do any of these misdemeanors, you will find the CBI on your back for sure. Okay. Economic crimes, including bank frauds. Remember in that scam 1992? Who was Hansal Mehta, I believe? What was the name of that person? Forget the name. So, you must have seen scam 1992. That fellow is being investigated by the CBI. So, obviously CBI does that too. Bank frauds, economic crimes, financial frauds, import-export, FEMA violations, large-scale smuggling of narcotics, antiques, cultural property, smuggling of other contraband items. See the kind of remit it has. Okay, the vast remit it has. That right from corruption up until, say, smuggling of antiques to economic crimes to bank frauds, the remit is extremely big. Okay. Special crimes, cases of terrorism, bomb blast, sensational homicides, kidnapping, all of those. Now the question so arises that you have to realize here, is the remit of the organization too wide? Okay. Would the whole process be better served if you had, say, specific organizations for specific categories of crimes? For example, nowadays you see that these cases, terrorism, bomb blast, nowadays you see that the NIA goes and takes over, the National Investigative Agency. So that's good. Again, you have a team of specialists who know about, say, how forensic evaluation is to be done, forensic collection is to be done, interpretation of evidence is to be done, all of that. That's a specific skill set, no? You'll have to be trained for that. No one is born with, say, how to collect, born with the talent to go and see how can you collect evidence. You can't be expected. So you need to have proper training. Okay. Similarly, FEMA violations, again, you're looking at, say, white collar corruption crimes. White collar is essentially those like the high profile ones, you know, who will be engaging in multi-billion-dollar fraud. So again, you need specific information, how to go about evidence collection there, interpretation of whatever stats and data you get, because most of this is going to be data-based, right? So this is again a fair, not a criticism, but you need to understand that the remit of the organization is far too wide, which means it has essentially become what? It has become like a jack of all trades, but a master of none, you know. It has got its toes dipped in far too many things. So you're not able to become a master of any particular type of thing. Okay. So the remit of the organization or the scope of the organization may be considered to be too wide, which reduces specialization. Make a note of this if you're writing it down. Okay. That because it's doing far too many things at one time, it is unable to do justice to a particular investigation or a particular type of investigation. Okay. All right. Fine. We'll go forward. So the functioning of the CBI now. First we know is the remit of the organization may be far too wide. Number two, let's understand about the functioning. So if you are, suppose, a CBI officer, okay, and you have to go ahead and say launch an inquiry against a joint secretary level officer in the government of India, right? So what initially was said was that the CBI is required to obtain the prior approval. So you need the prior approval of the central government before you launch an inquiry against an officer of the central government. Do you realize that there is a mismatch straight away, no? That you are going to ask approval from the very set of people against whom you are going to launch an investigation. You understand how it's working out? It's not going to happen. Or the information will be compromised, the evidence might be taken care of before the investigation is launched, right? So that was the problem, point number one. Point number two, that the Supreme Court held that the section 6A, it was violative of Article 14, equality before law. That why is this protection to joint secretary admissible? How is it fair? That was point number two. So number one, this provision of prior permission, no, that you have to take permission before you launch an inquiry against an officer of the central government. So one, it might have compromised or the potential to compromise investigation. Make a note of this. And number two, violative of Article 14. Both you have to understand now. Okay, fair enough. So you see how it functions. No? If you are, suppose, a senior officer in the central government, okay, if I am someone who is going to launch an investigation against you, obviously I am going to ask permission to someone who is going to be known to you, your coterie of officer, yet your batchmate, or you're someone who is just one or two batches up below you or just above you. You think the information will not filter out? Yes. So this is the problem. The moment the information filters out that, okay, I am going to launch an investigation against you, well, you are going to take care of the evidence. So once I do come up with my search warrant and this warrant and that warrant, there's nothing there. It's all gone. Okay? And second, obviously, there's no point having this kind of protection for someone like, what's the point? You're supposed to be equal, no? Right? So, violative of Article 14. Next function, next problem that the CBI is looking at is the principle of general consent, which we started this whole discussion with. So, states essentially give their agreement. Consent is agreement. Okay. So, states essentially give their agreement saying, okay, there are two ways it can function. One, that I give you general consent, thorough freedom to come, do your investigation, liaise with the governmental state agencies, and then whatever you're doing. In the free process, no tension there. Other is case by case, that every time you have to come and say do particular update to a case or launch an investigation or whatever, you have to take permission from me. So this is general consent. State government gives consent, which is agreement, to the CBI. The consent of the state government can be either case specific, which means on a case by case basis, or it can be general, which means you have given blanket permission that go ahead, okay, blanket permission. So general consent is essentially consent by default, which can mean that CBI may begin investigations taking consent as having been already given, that there is blanket protection given, blanket permission given, go ahead, launch, no rok-tok from the state government agencies. State police will not be a problem for you, they will in fact cooperate with you. Okay. But if you do not have general consent, then CBI has to apply to the state governments for taking even a small action, which is the case to case specific action. That for even a small update, small investigation, even if you have to go ahead and say do something before filing the charge sheet, go ahead, do the investigation. There also you'll have to take permission of the state government. Okay. Is that clear? These two problems are very important for you to identify. First, the prior approval, wherein you have to take permission to launch an investigation against an officer of the central government, joint secretary level. And number two, that you have to take permission just to go in or out, or obviously you could be given that permission, then that's fine. But then the onus is on the state to give this. So it's in their hands. Okay. So again, how is that a problem? Certain states, for political considerations, wherein if you feel that say a particular investigation of the CBI might hamper the particular political establishment of the state, well, they will obviously withdraw their consent. They will be like, this is coming after me only, no? So why should I give him permission? That's point number one. Number two, it can also be misused to coerce the state government, right? So you can use the CBI as an instrument to coerce the state government also, to put them under pressure to do what you want them to do. So you have to see from both sides, okay? From the state government side, that if they are probably engaging in some misdemeanor or something of that sort, then they can withdraw the consent. And if they are not doing anything, then the central government can coerce them for their own benefit. So these are the two things that you have to be aware of. Now this has to be counterbalanced against the federal structure of the country. Okay. So please understand this linkage now, guys. The three linkages that I am talking about. Whether the state government is guilty or the state government is not guilty or not engaging in corruption. Regardless of that, the federal structure of the country is important. That needs to be protected. Okay. You cannot have a situation where we are tending towards more a unitary approach. Eventually, it has to be that the states are an inalienable part of India, right? So you need to protect their interests also. So when you go forward, you look at the appointments now. First linkage I told you was the consent, the prior approval. Now come to the appointments. So the appointment committee for the CBI director. The CBI director is obviously a position of great importance. Okay. A lot, like the whole file work and every decision has to be essentially after his approval. So any CBI action or the lack of it, okay, is essentially to do with the CBI director. He is the power source in the organization, right? So who all are responsible for his appointment? The Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, which was again amended recently. So if you do not have a leader of the opposition, then the leader of the single largest opposition party, okay, and the Chief Justice of India, or if he is busy, then he'll send a fellow representative judge from the Supreme Court. So these three individuals are responsible for the appointment of the CBI director. Alright. The central government appoints also the director of prosecution. CBI is also to do with what? See, one is obviously that it will investigate. After the investigation has been done, then it will go ahead and go into the court, no? So you will need prosecution for that. So these are the two basic departments that you're looking at for the organization. One that will go into evidence collection. one that will now form the part of the whole prosecution process. So you'll need a set of lawyers or a team of legal minds also, right? So the director of prosecution is appointed on the recommendation of the CVC. Please understand this whole equation between CBI and CVC is very important. In an ideal scenario, these two organizations would work hand in hand. Okay, they are complementing each other's interests in an ideal scenario. All right. So the CBI, the director of prosecution, the person who will lead the whole arguments in the court, okay, that person is appointed after the CVC recommends the name to the CBI. Okay. The central government now, all the officers from SP level to below, inspector, sub-inspector, so the SSC, for those who clear, say, with good ranks in SSC, so you will see those individuals go to the CBI. Okay. So who is appointing them? Eventually they are being appointed by the central government. The superintendent of police, normally say a high caliber or a high performing IPS officer is sent on deputation from the states to the CBI. So again, it is being done by the central government. However, when it comes to the director level, well, it is to do with these three individuals. Other than that, say the below levels, SP and below levels are all done by the central government. Okay, make sure that you know, you'll understand this straight away. SSC top rankers, well, CBI, so central government, UPSC, central government. Okay, so all except director, and recommend the extension and curtailment of such officers in the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. So whether how long will your tenure be if you are a SP or if you are a inspector or an assistant inspector in the CBI, well, that is essentially decided by the government. That is decided by the central government. Now the selection committee. One thing is the appointment committee, guys. The appointment, like, so if I am sitting, say, as the Prime Minister, there are two more people, the leader of the opposition and the Chief Justice. So a set of names will come before us for consideration, say 5 names. Okay. So the 5 names are there. So we three will now form a consensus, and then we'll decide, okay, this person will be the CBI director. But then who will decide those 5 names? Can they be done arbitrarily? Can someone just recommend, okay, can this person be made CBI director? No. So there is a committee that sits and then peruses, say, the profiles of various candidates, various applicants, and again those who are considered also. So what is considered? Obviously your annual confidential report, your APAR it is called now. Annual Performance Appraisal Report. Okay. Thereafter your career, how say proactive you have been, what's your experience, you know, at state level, what have you done good, or what have you done of specific nature that you would add to the CBI, right? Because you look at the CBI's remit, no, it is doing everything from, say, corruption up until smuggling of antiques. Wide remit. So you need individuals with wide experience. You can't just have, say, simple thanedars whose only expertise is to write badly framed FIRs. Not that. You need people with specific expertise, which obviously people in the Indian police service are well trained in that. But then after training, what was the performance of the officer in the field? In the state government, what was his contribution? What was his annual performance appraisal report? So out of 10, how many marks have you got? Which is given by your immediate superior. Okay. So based on that, a selection committee is decided, which includes the Central Vigilance Commissioner, the other Vigilance Commissioners, the Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Secretary in Cabinet Secretariat. Not the Cabinet Secretary, by the way, but a Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat. Okay, make sure you note this last one. Okay, because if it was the Cabinet Secretary, he would proceed before him. He would be senior than him, no? Cabinet Secretary is the big boss of all the Indian Administrative Service officers. Okay? So obviously he is not there, but a secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat is also a part of the selection committee. So all of these gentlemen or ladies would sit around and then decide, say, okay, we have 50 applicants or 50 names that we are considering. We will recommend these 5 names to the appointment committee, and then these 3 individuals will sit down and decide, okay, out of these 5 names, we are going to select, say, individual B to become the CBI director. Clear? Central government employees only Bulbul. Central government employees is only up up to the rank of joint secretary. Have a look at this. It's a fair doubt to have. Let's address this quickly. So, committed by officers of the Joint Secretary and above. So, if you go through the whole chronology, you will see that secretaries also come in various ranks and orders. So, Joint Secretary above up until say the Principal Secretary or Secretary. Principal Secretary does not exist in the central government. Joint Secretary up until Secretary level. And Secretary is obviously the highest, the apex pay grade. Okay, you are looking at a senior IAS officer or an IPS officer who is probably very close to superannuation, who is made the secretary of a particular department. Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of such and such will be their designation. Okay? So that is the protection. Protection was given to this only. Others you can go ahead and do. Okay, no problem. So under secretary level or say assistant director level, all of them, yeah, free. Free. If they have engaged in any corruption, go ahead and launch an inquiry, no issues. But to the privileged top 3-4 category of officers, it was said essentially that go ahead, you can't launch an investigation against them until you have got permission from the very officers. So it made no sense. So the Supreme Court rightly said, no, it can't work out this way. Okay. Okay. So now the challenges, guys. Now that I've given you the whole background story of the CBI, you will straight away realize the challenges because I don't think the interpretation here will be that difficult. Okay. Number one, lack of autonomy. Now, this is most books or all of these will just tell you lack of autonomy. But then what? In autonomy, how will you make it more autonomous? You need to understand that. Okay. Autonomy is a very wide term. So, number one is obviously the consent angle. That CBI has to be dependent on the states. Can CBI be wholly dependent on the states? So that's the question that we are answering, okay? But this general consent principle that exists, okay, or this case-by-case consent that is provided, that essentially hinders the autonomy of the organization, okay? So they are responsible and basically dependent on this, okay? So this eats into the autonomy. Staffing now, look at it. Staffing is essentially the type of people you are putting in the organization. Now, given that it is doing such a huge role, a wide role, or at the same time, you see a lot of understaffing, that there are vacancies that have not been filled. Okay. Even those who are filled, well, what's the technical expertise? Because again, as an organization, CBI is looking at almost everything that happens in the world of crime. Okay. So, if you are having to look at everything in the world of crime, you need to have information about everything that happens in the world of crime. And not just say information about, okay, how this happens, but also what can be done to avoid it, how to go ahead and investigate it, what to look for. Today, if you are asked to investigate as a CBI officer, say go ahead and look at say this particular individual's transactions in the stock market or something that is done in say economic fraud. You need to go ahead and first understand what should I look for. If you do not have information about that only, what investigation will you do, right? So the staffing is an issue, not just say from the HR perspective, that there are few less of them, but also from the training perspective. Okay, the training also needs to be taken care of because it's a wide remit. Okay, prosecution is a problem. Why again? Because there is delay. There's a lot of delayed, and it's partly to do with the judicial process also, but it's also to do with the CBI's lack of say putting a renewed thrust on prosecution. So this needs to be taken care of. What is prosecution? That you investigate, okay, gather evidence. Based on evidence, a charge sheet is filed, okay, which is essentially all of the legal framework that will basically tell you, okay, this guy is guilty or is alleged to have done this under section this. Then that document is put forth in the front of the court. Then the arguments begin. Prosecution from the government side will lead say, okay, this person did this. Then the defendant he'll also hire a lawyer. So the person will say, no, he didn't do this. Then they'll put forth their argument back and forth and finally the judge will decide. So the prosecution is important because unless the prosecution converts this charge sheet into a guilty verdict, then only CBI's work is considered complete, right? So CBI's work is essentially to do with what? It's they're part of a bigger chain, do you realize? Investigation is in their hands, but then the prosecution department of CBI also needs to convert that investigation into a verdict, okay? And that verdict also has two stakeholders. One, the judicial side, and 2, the prosecution side themselves. Obviously, the defendant side also is included in this. So, a guilty verdict is arrived at only when all of these whole different things function properly. If the charge sheet that is provided in front of the court is verifiable, it's evidence based, that there is evidence backing those charges, only then can you hope of getting or be sure of a particular verdict that goes in the favor of the prosecution, that okay, the person is guilty, right? So because it's a long drawn out process and CBI is just a part of this process. So the criticism that CBI does not get so many convictions in their long history, you'll read a lot of articles, okay, that in their history since 1941, CBI has not managed to do that many convictions, okay, that they are a caged parrot, fair accusation. But you have to realize that they are part of a bigger chain. And so obviously there is only that much that they can do, and the rest of it is co-dependent on the efficiency of your judiciary also, okay. So loss of credibility as an independent organization, the caged parrot accusation, okay. A former judge of the Supreme Court, I think it was the Colgate case, and the justice name was R.N. Lodha, I think so, that was the name, okay. In the Colgate case, not important obviously for you to know, this is not very important. Justice R.N. Lodha had said that the CBI is reduced to a caged parrot. What he essentially meant was that it lacks autonomy. In Hindi you say, no, tota. So tota essentially repeats what the master says. So that's what Justice Lodha was saying when he said that the CBI is a caged parrot, that they just repeat what their masters are saying, essentially hinting at that there is lack of autonomy, that it has just become a government mouthpiece, okay. Legal limitations. Now, agency currently operates under outdated legislation. So the legislation, the legal backing also needs to be taken care of. Why? Because again, the nature of crime has changed, okay. Transboundary crimes exist, okay, wherein you say crime is committed here, also a part of the crime is committed somewhere else. So how are you going to gather evidence from both the sides, collate it, do the investigation that is required, come up with the charge sheet? Do you realize? So you need to come up with the legal backing also for CBI to say investigate this wide remit of crimes, okay. Right now it is essentially what I'll tell you. It's like a home guard you have sent to go ahead and fight at the borders. The person is not equipped, neither has the training, nor the skill, nor the right arms and ammunitions. Okay, and no offense to the home guard. They are very extremely important in the national architecture. But then to draw like a very crude parallel, it's like you have sent a home guard to go ahead and fight in Siachen. The person just does not have the training, okay. So, outdated legislation that does not adequately address contemporary challenges. Ambiguity in its jurisdiction, guys, see. Why am I telling you this? That the recent example, the unfortunate accident in Odisha, you had the CBI go and collect evidence there, which is fine. But then, to understand, say, a particular accident, what caused it, interlocking and all of this, even, say, the best of aware individuals took almost like 18 hours to understand what was interlocking and what is kavach and what exactly is loop line and what exactly is main line, okay. And these are the bare minimum facts. They obviously have to go into a lot of depth to figure out what went wrong. So is it unfair for a person to expect CBI to do justice to that investigation? Or are you better off having a specific body, a specialized body that say goes ahead and investigates, say, transport related issues or accidents or crimes, okay. So that is a fair accusation, fair charge in fact, that a generalist approach does not suit anybody when it comes to investigation. You need specialists in place, alright. Lack of transparency, inadequate accountability, this is obviously true, because again, the caged parrot accusation, alright. Plus at the same time, you have to look at the funding challenges also, okay. There is a lot of funding challenge, because again, you're look at the whole wide remit of responsibility that it has. It needs a lot of resources. It needs men, material, technology, all of that, okay. How far are we able to do that? Again, is a challenge before us. Technological upgradation, crime is no more boundary specific, digital forensics, data analysis, crime mapping. See, these are specific aspects that say form a bigger part of policing, right. So you need to have at least the capacity building in place. Okay, this can be considered to be a part of the capacity building. If you are noting this down, please make sure that you note this down. The capacity building of CBI needs to be done ASAP. Alright. So this is the challenge that I was speaking to you about. Now the way forward. Quickly we'll look at this because we have that survey report also to do. So statutory backing, obviously. No longer can you just hope that the CBI cannot be a constitutional body, obviously. It's not a statutory body also. So you need a particular statutory backing for it to work much more on that level that you're hoping. That it becomes, say, like a representative body, say what the FBI is. Okay, it needs to have the legal backing, guys. You know, in government system, legal backing is the most important thing. If you do not have legal backing, no one cares, right? Strengthening human resources, increasing strength of CBI plus training of CBI. Okay. Better investments in infra, say digital. Okay. You need them to be absolutely digitally enforced. Okay. Especially with AI coming up, this coming up, that coming up, the nature of crime will change now. Okay. Crimes that exist today did not exist, say 15 years, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you couldn't have all of your money pulled out from your phone because you clicked on a link. That wouldn't happen. Today it happens. Okay. Now you have, say, all of this new tech coming up that you scan your cornea or your iris and then you can probably access this and access that. Okay. Of fingerprint mapping, all of this is happening. So eventually, the nature of crime always keeps on changing, which means the nature of investigative agencies also needs to keep on changing. It can't be in silos that a organization of 1941 will be able to do justice to the crimes of 2023. That's not fair expectation also. Okay. Give them more money, obviously. Empower them, right? Allocate more powers related to the union, state and concurrent list and whistleblower protection. That if you go ahead and actually give them information about a particular type of crime, it shouldn't be that you're found dead, say 6 months later. Because someone leaked the information and then those against whom you had given the information, well, they took care of you. That shouldn't happen. Okay. Or unnecessary pressure shouldn't be put on you to withdraw your particular statement or your complaint. That there should be a fair and inclusive process wherein you and your interests are also protected. Because eventually it takes a lot of guts to go ahead, come up and say, you know what, this is wrong, that this should be corrected. And so you should be given protection. Whistleblower protection is of utmost importance. Okay? Is there anything I'm missing in this? At the same time, you know that law and order, okay, it's a state subject, right? So this general consent that we talk about, well, law and order is essentially a state subject. So you need the CBI to liaise more with the state governments, build that credibility. Because you can't encroach on the remit of the state government also. They are responsible for law and order in their state. The CBI can't just walk in showing how Akshay Kumar shows his iCard and do things at will. That can't happen. Which means you need a more collaborative approach. Okay, wherein the interests of each other as well as the larger interests of the federal character of India are protected. Okay, so a collaborative approach with the states is required, which should be backed by the CBI given more powers. What is this? What happened? Okay, collaborative approach. Right? Okay, let's go forward. So that brings to the end of this CBI debate, the CBI discussion very quickly. Again, let me, before I go forward into my second topic, we are starting this batch today, this evening, 6 p.m. And what I've been told, it's almost full. But again, for those of you who would like to be a part of this, because I have done several videos on this, and it is with the intention that students come and join us for what will be a very honest, dedicated, novel initiative that StudyIQ IAS has come up with, prelims to interview. And again, a major part of this is that if you clear your prelims, well, you join us here in New Delhi for the mains residential program, a first of its kind where we take care of everything else you study. Okay, and so go ahead and take a look at this, because this is beginning this evening at 6 p.m. a 1-year intensive course for someone who's looking for 2024. Okay, go ahead and use this course, this code. This will help you gain a discount of close to 40,000 rupees, which will be incredibly helpful for you. All right. Have a look at the features of the course. It's something that has been scientifically designed, enabled. And be assured that this also includes the CSAT bit, okay? Because many students have reached out to me asking whether this includes the CSAT bit. Yes, it does. Don't worry about CSAT. The change of 2023 and the mistakes of 2023, well, that's a thing of the past now. No one will be doing that mistake anymore into 2024. Not even the student, forget us. We will make sure you're solidified and fortified from all sides, your interests. Okay. So go ahead, use the code BA Live and make sure you sign up for this. We begin this evening at 6 p.m. Alright guys. Bulbul. Just a second. Alright. So we'll now go into the National Time Release Study Report, the NTRS 2023, which was released, I think, on Friday evening. Okay. The Central Bureau of Indirect Taxes and Customs, the CBIC, they released this particular report. Okay. The National Time Release NTRS Study Report. Okay. So the CBIC has released this particular report which measures the cargo release time at the various ports in India. What are the types of various ports, guys, in India? Who can tell me this? What are the different types of various ports? The various different ports. You have ICPs, you have ACCs. What are they? Can someone tell me in the chat? Okay. Report assess the progress made towards the National Trade Facilitation Action Plan, impact and challenges in implementation of Trade Facilitation Initiative. So at these ports, you need to make sure that the process is seamless. Okay. If you are exporting, your process should be seamless. It shouldn't be that you have sent something for export, it is received at the port and then it is lying there in a container for say a long time. And then finally one fine day a babu wakes up and then he sends your good. No, it shouldn't be like that. There should be a system in place. The turnaround time should be fast. What is the turnaround time? The moment the good enters into the port to the moment the good exits the port, if you are say exporting. If you are importing, the moment the good enters the port to the moment you receive your goods. That clearance of the custom should be fast, because the longer the delay, well, the ease of doing business. This is how you measure things, guys. Okay. Most of us think that ease of doing business is just to open a business. Well, yes, of course it is to opening a business, but then to sustain a business, you know that you have to liaise with the government in every step. They are the facilitators of all of this, no? So if they are not doing their job properly, then your interests are going to be hurt as a trader, as an importer, as an exporter. So again, if that process is slow, your goods are getting damaged. If they are perishables, your goods are completely damaged. You suffer loss, even though you have insurance. Insurance is a major part of all of this. But still you are suffering loss at some point or the other. Okay, you are suffering loss of your own credibility as a businessman, right? So this is what it measures. The study included, now these are the various ports of India, guys. Seaports, ACCs, inland container depots and integrated checkposts. Make sure you note down each of them and where all they exist in India. Okay. I will be giving this PDF of the seaports of India, the ACCs of India, the inland container depots and the ICPs. Okay. Make sure that you note down each of them. I will be sharing the PDF of individual of all of these because it's important. You should know where ICPs exist. You should know what ACCs are. Okay. So we'll discuss this, but this is what the study included. They went ahead, surveyed all of these places and okay, decided, well, which one is functioning good, which one is functioning bad. Where is there scope for improvement? Alright. So the cargo release time, like I told you, the time taken from the arrival of the cargo at the station to its out of charge for clearance. The moment it enters the port, custom clearance, you receive it. And arrival of the cargo at the station to the eventual departure in case of exports. Both process in and out should be seamless. Okay. There should be no delay as such. Key benchmark of trade efficiency and ease of doing business. In fact, the World Customs Organization, the WCO, okay, this whole study was mandated by the WCO. Oh, I've written this, okay, the World's Customs Organization. So it looks at two particular things, the trade efficiency and the ease of doing business. How quick the process is. So if you look at, say, the more developed countries, you find that their turnaround time is incredible. India also is catching up. I mean, our turnaround time, especially in our western seaboard, is incredible. Brilliant turnaround time. But then there needs to be more, because obviously if you are going to improve your trade, which means more goods have to come out, in and out, which means your process in the customs has to be fast. But not just fast, but also efficient. That there should be no illicit smuggling happening. So, you see, it's a very time specific and high pressure job again. Okay. So at the same time, because you're part of the customs, so you need to take care of the adequate checks and balances that are there in place vis-a-vis import or export of goods. All the paperwork is fine, that there is only declared goods that are being imported or exported. But all of this has to be verified and done in a short amount of time. Because if you get delayed, then the whole process gets delayed. You are like the keystone species in this whole particular debate. Okay. So which is why customs is very important, guys. So cargo release time is measured using time release study, which NTRS has done. A performance measurement tool recommended by the WCO. Where is the headquarter of the World Customs Organization? Let me know in the chat, guys. These things you should be it should come to you naturally. If you read a particular organization, if you don't know about, quickly Google it. Where is the organization's headquarter? Who is the parent body of the organization? Okay. That inquisitiveness has to come by itself. Alright, let me know in the chat. We'll reduce the spoon feeding slowly. Okay. Drive you a bit towards change. Alright. So with that, we come to the end of these two topics that I had for you, the whole discussion on CBI. Make sure that you go ahead and attempt this question, guys. Okay. More than anything, go ahead and attempt this question today. If you have any particular doubts vis-a-vis this question, let me know in my email, on my email ID. Okay. Go ahead and attempt this question, because now you will be able to solidify your answer. Begin from, say, the purpose of CBI being set up, from the Delhi DSPE Act, Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. Begin from there and then come to the current challenges. Then talk about general consent. Say that the power is not absolute. It is not. Why? Because even though law and order is a state subject, the union government is responsible for the national security and integrity. And if a particular crime in a state that has been committed probably endangers the national security of the country, or say relations between two different states, the union government is well entitled to step in. However, that should not encroach upon the federal nature of the polity that exists. That it also needs to be protected. The interests of states needs to be protected. Okay. Start from there and come to there. Then it's a well-framed answer. Okay. Alright. So with that, we come to the end of this week's first daily news analysis, the editorial edge. Once again, before I wrap up, please make sure, or at least I request you, that go ahead and join this Telegram channel. It will be of immense benefit to you in the coming days. And tomorrow, in fact, I was wanting to do a session on the India-US relations, especially from the whole first visit of Jawaharlal Nehru up until this current visit in the next 2 days by the Prime Minister. So I was hoping to do that, or I could say probably discuss why, say, Pakistan's geographical advantage is such that it has a lot of nuisance in the area. So let me know in the Telegram group, which topic would you like discussed? Would you like a deep dive into the India-US relationship? Or would you like to discuss the geographical location of Pakistan and as to how it gives it a lot of strategic importance? How is it? In fact, it should just strike you, as a student it should strike you, that up until Pokhran, or up until the year 2000 also, you see that the US and Pakistan were good friends. For some reason, they always were together, which is why India went towards Soviet. But what was it that Pakistan was offering US? Clearly not money, okay, because, well, it's Pakistan. So what was it that US had in Pakistan? What interest? And why is it that suddenly now China is also invested in Pakistan? Besides the fact that obviously the common enemy is India, fine. That is one reason. What's the bigger reason? What's the geostrategic importance of Pakistan given its geography? So let me know which particular topic would you like a deep dive in tomorrow morning 8 AM on the daily news analysis editorial edge. Alright. Okay, thanks for joining. Have a good day, and I shall see all those of you who have signed up for the P2I course this evening at 6 PM.